Hal Halalim La Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from, who rule well, and salutations and blessings to you elect, starting with the 144,000. So, this is from a website called All That's Interesting.com. Okay? And you can see the title, How Gary Webb Linked the CIA to the Crack Epidemic and Paid the Ultimate Price. And pretty much this is going into the sorcery of Babylon, right? The flood of crack cocaine in the 80s, which reached pretty much all major cities of the United States, and as well made its way up here to Canada, Toronto, Montreal, the big cities, man. And how throughout those epidemics of crack, with the crack epidemic, you had a surge in violence. You had surges in violence, deaths from crack overdoses, families being broken, curse upon curse for Jake. And that's the thing that Esau is a master at. He's that's his power, man, his sorcery. So I'm going to start with this scripture, Isaiah 47 and 8. I'll read it in the NLT. Listen to this, you pleasure-loving kingdom, living at ease and feeling secure. You say, I am the only one and there is no other. I will never be a widow or lose my children. Well, both these things will come upon you in a moment, widowhood and the loss of your children. Yes, these calamities will come upon you despite all your witchcraft and magic. And that's how America, Babylon the Great, has become great. The great is through her sorcery, her witchcraft, her army, her teeth, right? The teeth of the wicked. But that sorcery, man, that's a nitro, that's NOS. That's like NOS in the car, But reading on, verse 10, you felt secure in your wickedness. No one sees me, you said, right? Because that's what their works are. The scripture says in the book of Psalms 10, they sit in the lurking places of the villages, right? What does that mean? You have these different councils, fraternities, brotherhoods, societies, whatever you want to call them, guilds, right? And pretty much these people, these oligarchs, these masters, if you will, whatever, of the world, the rulers, right? That's what they do. They rule, but in secrecy, right? They make moves, right? Like in Batman, you have the League of Shadows. That's exactly who they are. They are the League of Shadows. They work in the shadows, in the twilight. But your wisdom and knowledge have led you astray, and you said, I am the only one and there's no other. Okay? So disaster will overtake you and you won't be able to charm it away. Calamity will fall upon you and you won't be able to buy your way out. A catastrophe will strike you suddenly, one for which you are not prepared. Now use your magical charms. Use the spells you have worked at all these years. Maybe they will do you some good. Maybe they can maybe they can make someone afraid of you. And that shows you these devils have been working this. They've been working this. What is this? What am I talking about? The occult. The practice of so-called black magic. Right? Witchcraft, sorcery. And that crack, you best believe, is sorcery. Ain't no nigga in the kitchen just, put a pot on the stove right? Put some ice cubes, get the baking soda, put the Coke in there. Oh, this is that rock. That was made in a laboratory, man. That was made in a fucking CIA laboratory. These experiments that these people, these Edomites do. You know how many experiments they do? You know how many tests that they do in labs and universities? You know how much funding they get? How many projects there are that are classified and won't be released until 50 years later when no one gives a shit? Until they become declassified. All the advice, verse 13, you receive has made you tired. Where are all your astrologers, those stargazers who make predictions each month? Let them stand up and save you from what the future holds. But they are like, that was a point. So I'm going to read into this. This is a bit dense. It says, in a 3-part expose, investigative journalist Gary Webb reported that a guerrilla army in Nicaragua had used crack cocaine sales in Los Angeles' black neighborhoods to fund an attempted coup of Nicaragua's socialist government in the 1980s, and that the CIA had purposefully funded it. It sounds like a Tom Clancy novel, right? Except it actually happened. The series of reports published in the San Jose Mercury News in 1996 set off a firestorm of protests in LA and in black communities across the country as African Americans became outraged by the assertion that the U.S. government could have supported or at least turned a blind eye to a drug epidemic that had ravaged their population, while at the same time incarcerating a generation with Ronald Reagan's war on drugs. Right? This thing was multi-layered, man. It had many detriments, many consequences for Jake, man. Okay? For Webb, his reporting challenged the widely held belief that crack use began in African American neighborhoods, not for any tangible reason, but mainly because of the kind of people who lived in them. Nobody was forcing them to smoke crack, the argument went, so they only have themselves to blame. They should just say no. That argument never seemed to make much sense to me, because drugs don't just appear magically on street corners in black neighborhoods. Even the most rabid hustler in the ghetto can't sell what he doesn't have. If anyone was responsible for the drug problem in a specific area, I thought it was the people who were bringing the drugs in. Right? And this is him right here, Gary Webb. On the other hand, let me skip down a bit. Webb's Dark Alliance consisted of a group of rebels trying to overthrow the socialist government of Nicaragua. These Contras were funded by a Southern California drug ring and backed by the CIA. Quote, for the better part of a decade, a San Francisco Bay Area drug ring sold tons of cocaine to the Crips and Bloods street gangs of Los Angeles and funneled millions in drug profits to an arm of the Contra guerrillas of Nicaragua run by the Central Intelligence Agency. Gary Webb, 1996. Let's go to where it all began. Now this is what the situation in Nicaragua was. You can read about it. I'm not going to get into it. Read about it here, but pretty much they wanted to put a puppet in, right? So that's what they do. That's what America does. If this is called the covert operation, right? They fund and train and arm rebels, that either want to change in the government or they just set those guys up pretty much, So down here, it says, shepherding traffickers to safety. One of the most notable street level players was Oscar Danilo Blandon Reyes, a former Nicaraguan bureaucrat turned prolific cocaine supplier in California. It says from 1981 to 1986, Blandon seemed to be protected by invisible higher-ups that quietly held jurisdiction over local authorities. After 6 years of shepherding thousands of kilos of cocaine worth millions of dollars to the black gangs of LA during the early 1980s without a single arrest, Blandon was busted on drugs and weapons charges on October 27, 1986. In a written statement to obtain a search warrant for Blandon's sprawling cocaine operation, LA County Sheriff's Sergeant Tom Gordon confirmed that local drug agents knew about Blandon's involvement with the CIA-backed Contras all the way back in the mid-1980s. Quote, Danilo Blandon is in charge of a sophisticated cocaine smuggling and distribution organization operating in Southern California. The monies gained from the sales of cocaine are transported to Florida and laundered through Orlando Murillo, who is a high-ranking officer of a chain of banks in Florida named Government Securities Corporation. From this bank, the monies are filtered to the Contra rebels to buy arms in the war in Nicaragua. All of this and more was later backed up by Blandon himself after he became an informant for the DEA and took the stand as the Justice Department's key witness in the 1996 drug trial. There is a saying that the ends justify the means, said Blandon in his court testimony, and that's what Mr. Bermudez, the CIA agent who instructed the FDN, told us in Honduras, okay? So we started raising money for the Contra Revolution. Meanwhile, Blandon testified that his drug ring sold close to 1 ton of cocaine in the U.S. in 1981 alone. In the following years, as more and more Americans became hooked on crack, that figure skyrocketed. While he wasn't sure how much of that money went to the CIA, he said that whatever we were running in LA, the profit was going for the Contra Revolution. Blandon confessed to crimes that would have meant life in prison for the average dealer, but instead he spent just 28 months in prison, followed by unsupervised probation. He has been extraordinarily helpful, said O'Neill to Blandon's judge while arguing for his release. The DOJ proceeded to pay him more than $166,000 in the 2 years after his 1994 release for his services as an informant for the U.S. government. Even Blandon's lawyer, Bradley Brunon, was convinced of Blandon's alliance with the world's most powerful intelligence agency. Brunon said that his client never specifically claimed he was selling cocaine for the CIA, but figured as much from the atmosphere of CIA and clandestine activities that surfaced during that time. Let me jump down here. Was he involved with the CIA? Probably. Was he involved in drugs? Most definitely. Were those two things involved with each other? They've never said that, obviously. They've never admitted that, but I don't know where these guys get these big aircraft. Bradley Brunon, attorney for Oscar Danilo Blandon Reyes. He sent his information to DEA headquarters in the 1980s, but the only response he got was an internal investigation, now not of these flights, but of him. But he retired in 1991. Basically, the bottom line is it was a covert operation, and the DEA officials were covering it up, he told Webb. You can't get any simpler than that. It was a cover-up. A cover-up with devastating consequences. LA drug lords had come up with a way to make cocaine cheaper and more potent, cooking it into crack, and nobody spread the plague of crack as far as wide as Ricky Donnell, Freeway Rick Ross. You know, and that dude was just another guy. Jake that came up and he was used. Right? This guy said he had a drive-through of he had like a McDonald's drive-through of crack, man. This dude was making, I think, $1 million a day. There was times that regular Jake, you go out on the corner for a night, you know, and this is in the 80s, you make a couple grand. Make up to 5 G's, man. You know? That shit was bad. I remember this one interview of this Jake, I think it was the 80s or maybe 90s, and I believe he was in New York. If I'm not mistaken, no, he was in the West Coast. He was in the West Coast, and pretty much, he said, look, he was an engineer, right, and he worked for telecommunications, and he had a good job, man, making a lot of money. And this dude tried crack. A woman offered him crack to try it, and he obviously, the first high, that's what you chase your whole life after, pretty much, right? And this dude said, man, I've seen all kinds of people in and out of the crack house. He's seen regular plumbers, regular blue collar workers, right? He's seen teenage women, girls with their fathers. He said he's seen one girl come in with her father, and her father was about to pay, and she said, no, Daddy, it's my turn. I'm gonna pay. He said she couldn't be no more than 16. So that shit was a curse, man. But that's sorcery, bro. That's some high level fucking sorcery, right? And that shit spread first into LA, and then it spread out pretty much all throughout the major cities of America, and in LA they had a thing where pretty much Jake had them street gangs, man, right? The Bloods and the Crips started there, and there was a time where when the Jakes got older, when they got mid-20s, late 20s, and he wanted a family, they could actually retire from gangbanging, and they could go work at they had a lot of factories there in California, LA County. Then it closed down. So pretty much what they were saying was when all that shit closed down, they needed a substitute, right? Elam. They needed a substitute for the empty jobs, and that's when the guns and the crack came, and that's when the killings, there was killings before with Jake in LA, but that's what, look, man, the 80s, 90s, that's when the killing was high, bro, excessive. And that's that's just part of the curses, though, that's part of the curses brought to you by the sword, the tool of the Most High, right? AKA Esau Edom, right? This guy, just another pawn, So that was pretty much it. This dude, he ended up with a bullet in his head because he kept digging too much. But you get the point, Let me get this scripture. This is Nahum 3:4. Because of the multitude of the whoredoms of the well-favored harlot. What are the whoredoms? Fornication. These are the nations accepting the doctrines, the wines, the way of thinking, the way of life, the lifestyle, the culture of America, right? Of the well-favored harlot, right? America's well-favored. Oh, America, I want to go there, right? New York City. I gotta go there. I can make it. I can make something of myself. I can, I can be who I want to be. The mistress of witchcrafts, that selleth nations to her whoredoms and families to her witchcrafts. Right? In the NLT, it says all this because Nineveh was what? The capital of Assyria. Assyria is a buzzword for America. America is a collection. It's an amalgamation of all the ancient kingdoms. That's why it's Babylon the Great. Right? It's Babylon the Great because it's a collection of all the idols of the past, of Greece, Rome, Egypt, Babylon, Assyria, Persia. All these different gods are in America. All these idols, right? All this because Nineveh, the beautiful and faithless city, mistress of deadly charms, enticed the nations with her beauty. She taught them all her magic enchanting. She taught them all her magic, enchanting people everywhere. That's America. That's America, man. Right? Love is love. Be who you want to be. Do as thou wilt. That's what this place pushes. And like I said, part of that sorcery, man, is that crack. Which crack isn't as big as it was, of course. You got meth. You got fentanyl now. You know? But it's still around. Don't get it twisted. Crack is still around. But, you know, you got higher levels now of drugs. Right? But that crack, man, that pretty much swept away generations of families of Jakes, man. So-called blacks and Latinos. You know? That's what Jake aspired to be. A dealer, a dope boy. At one time. And that's what pretty much put a lot of Jakes into the ground at one time. And still to this day. Alright? So anyway, I hope you're edified. A lot of reading and, you know, a lot of, you know, like I said, dense material. But nonetheless, you can read that full article for yourself if you want to. But the point was made. You know, it was no coincidence, man. Like when you watch Get Rich or Die Trying, I always laugh at that scene when they show the Jakes, you know, they have that pot and he puts the you know, he's showing them how to make the crack. And he puts the cocaine in there and everyone's like, yo, what are you doing? Why are you putting it in the water? You're gonna, the fuck you doing? And then he takes it out and it's solidified rock. You know, and it was like a epiphany for them niggas, man. You know, that was like a, you know, Bill Nye the Science Guy moment. But like I said, man, ain't no Jake just started doing that shit, experimenting. That was a thing brought in. By whichever means, man. Whichever agent, right? Anyway, Kahalayim la Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai Ba'ashem Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops who rule well, and salutations and blessings to the elect. Shalom.